Jay Hum. I work here at Pivotal, so just a quick show of hands. Who's been here before in this office space? Only a couple people, great. So for those of you who have never been here before, welcome. I just want to give a couple minutes and talk about what Pivotal Labs is all about. So Pivotal, we're a software company, and Pivotal Labs, we're a software development consultancy, and our main value proposition and differentiation from any other software development consultancy is around education and enablement. So in education, what we do is we work directly with our clients and we educate them on software development best practices. So that could be around agile, lean, or extreme programming. And we talk about our methodologies and our mindset. And the second part is around enablement. And this is where we differ from any other software development firm out there. So if you take a quick look around behind you, you see you have this big wide open floor space here. And that is to accommodate all of our clients coming and co-locating and working with us directly on site. So the end goal is that we're obviously going to build an app, whether that's a mobile app or a web app. But more importantly, we are working directly with our clients' development team to educate them and enable them so that at the end of the engagement, they can leave here having that app built, right? But secondly, they will have all the tools, the methodologies, and the skill set to be self-sufficient so they can continue the development of that app afterwards. Right? So I'm going to be here for most of the night, so if anybody has any questions or concerns, feel free to come up and talk to me afterwards. But I'm going to hand it over now, and we have a great show tonight.
Thanks, Jay. Thank you so much tonight, and good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming to the Hive think tank. For those of you who are tweeting tonight, just please use hashtag Hive data. The Hive think tank is a forum for thought leadership. Through our panel discussions, through our talks, we focus on two things. One is entrepreneurship, another one is all things data. We were just a few speakers on the Hive stage in the past. We have organized since our inception over 170 events. Our community is growing. Thank you to all of you who are with us here for the first time, and amazing speakers that we had over 270 on our stage. We organize events almost on weekly basis. Upcoming, and this is the last one this year, is will take place in Palo Alto this time, Pivotal Palo Alto, in machine learning and applications in genomics from professor from CMU. For those of you who are interested, please just sign up on our meetup page, as you did for tonight's event, the Hive think tank, or you can find all information on our website as well. We listed just a few of upcoming events in 2017. We have, as you can see, almost every month we have one. We'll have more, but the last one is taking place on April 6th. We'd like just to give a big shout out to all our sponsors and our partners. If interested in any corporate sponsorship, please just talk to me or Ravi or anyone from the Hive team. The Hive think tank is brought to you by the Hive, founder of the Hive, the managing director. And Ravi will share more with you.
Thank you. How many of you are here for the first time? Awesome, great. So we usually do these types of events in the South Bay, so it's great to have you guys here. So the Hive is a fund focused on AI and data-driven innovation. So we are focused on AI-driven automation, and you'll hear today a talk on support and service being automated by AI. But you see a number of areas and a number of industries where we are funding companies. You'll hear Dan Turchin today. That's one of our companies. And so if you're interested in a job at Neva, please reach out to Dan and myself later. Be part of the conversation, so use the hashtag HiveData. And with that, I'd like to invite Kate Leggett up to the stage. She's at Forrester Research, and she covers customer service support management. And so what we do, the format for today is She'll kind of give us a brief overview of the space and frame sort of the space, and then we'll invite all the panelists, have a discussion, following which we'll open it out to Q&A.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for all of you. Like Robbie said, I'm going to frame the discussion about AI and intelligence grounding it in customer service and support. And even taking a step back from that and talking about the modern customer and what the modern customer expects in a customer service or an internal support interaction. So with that, a lot of this is motherhood and apple pie, and so I'll try to be really quick because the fun of tonight will be for panelists and the discussion that we'll have after this. But to start off, when you think about customer service and support, you really have to think about the power that the modern customer has. You think back a decade ago, 2 decades ago, and companies that customers did business with really controlled the relationship that they had with the customer. And today there's such transparency and authenticity of information that's available to customers that customers are really in the driver's seat. And why is this important? It's because we're moving more and more into a subscription economy. Customers as well have at their fingertips an incredible amount of information to guide them in their choices, and they have expectations of good experiences. And companies have to be cognizant of these customer expectations for service interactions because to be able to garner their satisfaction and their long-term loyalty. And what is the modern customer's expectations for customer service? And at Forrester, we frame this in a framework of 3 E's. We say that customers expect easy interaction. They have an issue, a question that they need answered. They want to get in over the touch point, a channel of their choice, get the question answered, get the issue resolved, and get on with a busy day. They expect effective interactions. They want their question fully resolved, contextualized to their particular situation. They want their issue fully resolved. And they also want to walk away from that interaction feeling good about having done business with the customer service organization. And again, this applies for external customer service as well for internal support. Why do you care about delivering experiences in line with customer expectations? It's for external customer service. Customer satisfaction has a direct impact to customer retention. Customers are satisfied, they'll be less likely to take their business elsewhere. They'll be more likely to buy more from the company, cross-sell, upsell other products, and they will be more likely to serve as an advocate for the products and services of the company. And all of these dimensions of loyalty have a direct impact on top-line revenue. So good customer service experiences can, again, have a direct correlation to increase top-line revenue. And that's why you really care about delivering on the 3 E's of service. Easy service, effective service, and service that leaves you with a positive emotional feeling in dealing with a company. For internal support, it's the same thing. Easy, effective service means that your employees are ultimately more efficient, more productive, and this translates into cost savings. But what we also find at Forrester is that employees who are satisfied with their work environment, with the technologies that they use, actually stay longer at the company. So there's that element of retention and advocacy that we see for internal employees that are satisfied with their work technologies. So intelligence and intelligence as applied to customer service and support. You hear words like robots, robotic process automation, cognitive computing, AI, machine learning, and all of these technologies can can be used and are being used today to provide better customer service experiences. And in a survey that we ran last year, we saw that 83% of decision makers who are involved in cognitive computing really believe that cognitive computing will tip and have real value in the next 5 years. So, what is the current state of AI and all these different technologies that fall under the umbrella of AI in customer service and support? And again, I'm taking an outside-in perspective, thinking about the customer and the customer's expectations for engagement. So today, customers want easy interaction. They want their time to be valued. 3/4 of customers say that valuing their time is the most important thing that a company can do to provide them with good service. And what this means is that customers are going to self-service as a first point of contact with a company for external service. And they're looking at FAQs, knowledge management solutions, discussion threads, voice self-service, communities, virtual agents, and it's only if they're not able to get their issue resolved or their question answered that they escalate, and they escalate over digital channels and phone channels still. So as a foundational layer of providing these easy experiences are the knowledge management solutions, search and discovery solutions, where you can type in a question in natural language and you get relevant answers surfaced, and the relevance of the solutions that are surfaced are refined and driven by machine learning. But current knowledge management solutions can only go so far. At our horizon, in a couple of years, we'll really see cognitive engagement solutions being democratized and being used in many more scenarios, and cognitive engagement solutions like Wipro, like IBM Watson, are able to take inputs from many different sources and build these models of inference and really recommend the right answer, the right solution, the right treatment. For example, Sloan Kettering Memorial Center uses IBM Watson to surface these very specific cancer treatments for particular patients given their symptoms. And even though this is still several years out, what is here today are virtual agents that can be used internally for customer support agents or externally that learn from agent actions and are able to take over and expand the amount of self-service interactions that they can effectively handle today. So in terms of effective interaction, how many of you work in a customer support or have been in a customer support organization or in a big call center? Okay. So this picture will probably look familiar to you. This is the infrastructure. This is the IT infrastructure of a major telco in North America, where agents end up using dozens of disconnected applications during the course of their workday to be able to handle customer inquiries. And what we see is, first of all, you've got process guidance. These are technologies that overlay this disconnected, fragmented ecosystem that handhold and guide agents through standardized resolution paths. But we're also seeing, and it's pretty mature now, robotic process automation, rules-driven robotic process automation, but intelligence as well built in to be able to automate many of these agent tasks, especially as, for example, being able to transfer information from one application to another application. We also see intelligence, service intelligence in any type of digital communication within customer service organization, where machine learning can read, or service intelligence can read incoming emails, understand the intent, be able to match an answer to the question and send it out to the customer, and dependent on how the customer responds or the agent responds, the question and answer matching ends up getting refined. You've got analytics that are fueling an agent's or prescribing an agent's next best step in what they need to do to be able to serve the customer. Being able, for example, to connect the right customer to the right agent, not only based on skills, but as well as psychographic characteristics. Being able to streamline a service process by learning what set of applications agents need to follow to be able to effectively resolve a customer's question. Being able to do the next best action, recommend the next optimal step in a service interaction, or push the right content and right knowledge to the agent. And again, today, a lot of these actions are driven by rules, but more and more analytics are being used by companies to drive and optimize these actions based on the eventual outcome of the service interaction. And lastly, all about emotion. We find that emotion, out of the 3 E's, is the most important and impactful driver of customer satisfaction and loyalty. We want to have that emotional connection with the company that you're doing business with, and it's increasingly difficult in the digital and self-service world that we end up living in. So there's technologies like speech analytics that can help, and even real-time speech analytics, which is really hard to do, which can be able to categorize incoming calls and be able to surface information to the agent in real time to guide their conversation, to be able to figure out, for example, if the customer is speaking over an agent, and you'll have a screen pop that will tell the agent to slow down or use different words, or perhaps change the tone of the agent to better communicate with the customer. You can go even a step further, and especially if you're using like video chat or 1 or 2-way video, is to be able to map different facial features of your customer, and to be able to understand if a customer is frowning, or if they're upset, or they're or they're not understanding something, and use that feedback again for the agent to help guide the conversation to be able to deliver better experiences, again, to build on that relationship that you have with the customer. Intelligence. So again, these are very tactical examples of intelligence as applied to the customer service or customer service scenarios. But ultimately, what is all this automated intelligence going to do to our jobs? Our routine tasks are going to be taken over by machines. And what this will mean is that knowledge workers today are going to be focused on the exceptions, on the harder tasks. And in a survey, it's a very small pool, but we found that in our survey response, about half of them said that the number of human jobs will remain about the same, but the nature of the work that they're engaged with is really going to change. So with that, I want to invite up our panelists, and I'll have them all introduce themselves. Nitin, come on up.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nitin Narkhede. I work for a company called Wipro Technologies. It's a $8 billion system integration company. I look after emerging technologies and innovation portfolio for the company. So essentially, incubate new practices, new offerings for the company around emerging technologies. And AI is an area that I've worked on for last 3-4 years. And we recently launched AI practice. We focus a lot on custom support applications using AI. And I think Kate mentioned the platform that Wipro has built for Wipro. It's an AI platform that we use to essentially deliver these solutions.
Jason?
Hey everyone, I'm Jason from Zendesk. Zendesk is a software sort of product which allows businesses to have better relationships with their customers. My role there is a little bit different. So I started off in engineering and built out their data science and engineering teams, as well as a few of their platform teams, and now I'm in product strategy. a lot of the topics here tonight are like close to my heart from an engineering standpoint as well as a product standpoint.
Allan?
Hi, I'm Leinwand. I'm CTO at ServiceNow, which is the enterprise cloud company. So we do enterprise workflow automation, including customer service management, as well as IT operations, what's called ITSM, IT service management, and we run. Well, I'm involved in running everything. If it gets coded or plugged in, has a piece of aluminum or something somewhere, I'm involved. So that's kind of my company. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dan.
Hi, last but not least. I'm Dan Turchin. I'm one of the co-founders of Neva. And thank you first off to the Hive, to Robbie and the Hive for incubating us. We exist because the customer support experience today sucks. We all hate to pick up the phone and call the help desk. There are many better options. We think that very soon we'll live in a world where when you have a problem, the shortest path between you and the answer doesn't exist by you calling the help desk. So the way we solve that problem is we've developed an AI engine that automates the end-to-end support process for a combination of the requester, the one with the problem, the fulfiller. If an incident is actually generated, then we assist the fulfiller to accelerate the resolution process. And we also offer a dashboard with automation insights, both trend-based and predictive-based, for managers. Now the fact is, today in IT, we're facing a really strong headwind because technology is getting more complicated and it's getting increasingly difficult to script out things that a human being can use to fix whatever arbitrary problem might come over the phone. We're bold enough to think, however, that given the fact that about 80% of call tickets relate to one of three kinds of issues, they're either related to password resets, system access, or application configuration, we think that we can get pretty darn good at training a virtual assistant to automate the process of resolving those issues. So that's what we're working on. It's a virtual assistant aided by NLP on the front end and a decision engine aided by a neural network on the back end. We think very soon you will never call the help desk again thanks to Neva. And we're aggressively hiring. I think I'm allowed to pitch that we're hiring at this event. We're really looking for anyone who shares our passion for creating great customer experiences. So, thanks for joining me.
So you can keep the mic. You can keep the mic. So to kick this off, I want to ask the panelists, and I'll start with you, Allan. What are your customers doing today in the field of AI as applied to customer service and support?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because our platform is all about trying to get people to execute tasks. So a customer will call in, they'll file an incident, a problem, something needs to be fixed. And we have a series of workflows that run that get those tasks done. And right now, the real issue is trying to figure out when someone calls in and they log an issue. My PC is broken, I need to onboard a new employee, I want a new virtual machine over here, and I'll plug VMware since this place was sort of traditional from VMware. How does that actually get done? How does that product get that thing, that task get completed? So what we're seeing people do is write workflows and automation and use things like NLP and natural language to derive from the incident description, if you will, the thing you showed on the screen, my audio monitor doesn't work to, I got to RMA something, straight to solving that problem. And what's interesting to us is there's a lot of platforms out there that can take issues. People can take issues all day long, right? You can log into Salesforce, you can log into good guys at Zendesk, you can file issues all day long. But then to actually get the work done, you kind of have to swivel chair over to something else, and you actually have to do engineering work to get the work done. Well, imagine you can do that all in one platform. So when the customer called in and they said, I've got this problem, you said, yes, I've assigned it to engineering, I've assigned it over to the networking team, I've assigned it to the HR team. And when that team actually gets done, the customer gets a notification, and that entire loop is closed. And accelerating that loop can be done with machine learning and AI. And that's what we're really focused on, is sort of driving that pattern. As opposed to, yes, Mr. Comcast customer, we've logged your incident, and engineering will call you back in the next 4 to 6 hours. And they might connect the fact that there's a cable outage in your area to the customer ticket, or they might not, you might have to explain it, which is the experience that we all have, right? If if you have Comcast, or I'll pick on DirecTV, pick your favorite. But that's sort of the analogy we see is driving incident problem or thing that somebody wants to get done directly to the work that can get it done and resolving that as fast as possible. And that's where we think the experience is really going.
So, Jason, at Zendesk, you have a different point of view or a different focus area. Where do you see customer service intelligence in being used by your customer base?
Yeah, I think like we've always had like early adopters who some of the gaming companies have gone out and built their own machine learned models, and like they have a whole engineering team dedicated to just like building better automation for the support organization. So like they've been doing it for years, and we've been playing catch up in many ways, but we've been trying to make that as generic as possible and apply it out through cool features within our product. And we've got satisfaction prediction, which is a mechanism of like working out whether someone's going to be happy or not based on the interactions which are coming through. And that's been really interesting to see how it's being used. A lot of support managers don't want their agents to be able to know how they're doing throughout the conversation. And we're like, why? Like, come on. Like, so there's definitely a level of rolling out machine learning technologies to the agents where you have to sort of teach them that this is here to help them and give them indicators of what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing compared to like monitor them. Because I think a lot of the times like the people in the service world have just been sort of like threatened by solve this many tickets otherwise you're fired. And I think that's going to change, especially with the automation which is coming along through the machine learning algorithms.
So, Nitin, let me ask you. You're the GM of the Center of Innovation and Emerging Technologies at Wipro. What are the cool things you're seeing customers are asking you about that are actually seeing like today in customer implementations?
So, probably talk a little bit about how we are working with some of our customers, right? As you can see, there'll be categories of customers, who want to go up all the way, try something, radically new, radically different, and some want to sort of take more guarded approach as to, what they can expose their customers to. So we have, Kate has 3 E's, we have 3 A's. We talk about assist, right? Creating assistive tools to the agent, right? The second step is accelerate, right? Creating accelerators, and that would essentially help speed up the process, resolution process. And the third is autonomous, where you're solving the customer's problem autonomously, right, through a virtual agent. So we have sort of customers across all of these 3 areas. And I think one important thing when you sort of get an idea, try to apply an idea, is also the return on investment, right? So how do you sort of calculate what your returns are going to be, right? And obviously we need to worry about other things like adoption and all of that, right? Before you really realize what you have in the spreadsheet. So the one basic thing that we do is look at the complexity as well as the volume, right? What is the complexity of support of the product that you're looking at, and based on that, decide where do you want to go first, right? Sometimes you want to make sure that the quality of resolutions across your agents, whether they are new or they are 5 years into the job, right? That's uniform, right? So you would probably focus on the assistive tools, where you have a virtual agent actually assisting your agent, right? Looking at the problem, identifying potential recommendations and providing those recommendations to the human agent, right? Similarly, you have on the automation side, areas like you have customer problems that you get across various channels. You do the analysis, natural language analysis of the problem, identify areas, that this problem actually is, belongs to this category, and this is the keyword that these are the right agents to resolve that problem. So one, you're making routing more efficient, reducing the issue of sort of bumping tickets between different queues or different agents, and also getting the best possible agent to work on that problem. And I can probably talk about an example of the automation side, but there again, a similar sort of analogy applies in the sense, you look at what would give you the best possible outcome by applying these technologies, and the way we go about it is break the process down, look at the individual task, whether it's discovery, whether it's analysis, and then or even a prediction, right? And then apply these technologies to that task, and then integrate the process.
That's a really nice framework that you have. I love that explanation. So moving on, analytics and predictive analytics. How do you use intelligence to be able to predict issues and preemptively intervene? So Dan, you're working on a new solution. You want to give us your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So one of the things that's fascinating about looking at the world of internal customer support is this realization that the answers are out there and they're actually pretty easy to access. The problem is that we prefer not to, and we prefer to answer based on institutional memory. So one of the users of Neva told me this horrifying story, which might resonate with some of us in the room. They have a team of 500 call center agents, and consistently 10% of those score 50% higher in customer sat surveys than the others. And that's shocking until you realize the way they actually deliver support. So everything lives in the heads of that small number of tech support agents. If let's engage in this thought experiment, there were a way to tap into the power of all the data that lives out there on the network and sometimes external and public sources, Stack Overflow or the Apple support forums or wherever it may live, and combine that with some contextual data. Who's the caller? Where are they right now? Where have they been in the last 24 hours? What are their open incidents? If you could take into account interaction data from a conversation that you're having with them, combined with contextual data about what's going on right now, combined with enterprise data living in sources like a Zendesk or a ServiceNow, hypothetically speaking, you can get to the point where every single interaction that I have with an autonomous agent is better than the best interaction that I have with one of those three all-knowing human agents. The way to really capture kind of the power of both trend analytics and predictive analytics is by relying less on the institutional memory of the three super agents in the call center that don't work all the time. They sleep sometimes, they eat sometimes. It's unfortunate they do. But if instead we kind of shifted our thinking about how the problem gets solved and realize that the best answer, the shortest path between the question and the answer, lives by tapping into the power of all this big data that's already stored in the enterprise. We think that's kind of the true potential of delivering a great support experience.
So the really interesting thing is we roll out this new feature called automatic answers, which is basically getting that content and serving it back out to customers. And the first reaction from our beta customers is why'd you send that article? That's a stupid article to send. I was well, that's because it's in your home center. And it's no, it's not. And it's yeah, it's definitely there. So it's really interesting to you've got to tap the knowledge, but then you've got to make sure that you curate the knowledge as well as when we sort of let the machines loose on this.
Well, it's interesting. I spent a lot of time flying United Airlines at SFO.
You poor man.
Yeah, I know. 20 years ago they were good. And, but they're a customer of ours, so I love them. And this is being recorded at United. And what I found, I don't know the statistics on it, but there's something about the way you improve customer service with your interaction, because you don't always get the whiz-bang personal support. You remember this experience, right? If you got in line at United at SFO, and you happened to get the right person that knew all the magic keystrokes quickly, you got the right seat on the right flight at the right time, right? Everyone's nodding, going, yeah, I remember that. I remember that experience. Well, what United did is they figured out the best way to improve customer service is get you away from the humans. Now we all go to the kiosk, we swipe our card, hit a button, we're done, and we love it, right? So what we did is we drove the customer experience away from humans, because you don't always get to those 3 super agents that only serve one case, and got it to a machine that can actually automate things properly with the right knowledge, right? So that's really the key. And you know, the emotional connection I actually have to United when I have to go talk to a person is, oh God. But when I have this experience where I can actually go to the machine and get my boarding pass and be through security in 5 minutes, it's a beautiful thing. So how do we take that experience and make it the same experience, whether I'm working on broken TV or working on something in IT or whether I'm dealing with Comcast, how do we make that experience faster? To me, that was sort of the aha moment on automation.
Okay, so I'm like, sitting on my hand. I find that the ultimate irony is that culturally we've become so fearful of the bots taking over the world, Skynet and silly stuff like that, and yet increasingly humans are becoming more robot-like because we're having them read from a script in a call center, and it's the bots that are becoming more human-like. That's the future.
So, what we do, right? One of the techniques that we use is actually train the bots using humans, right? So, watch what humans do and learn from there, right? We know the pitfalls of some of that. Though the call center or support help desk is a controlled example of what happened to Microsoft's bot, right? Jade. Even here, there is a possibility that you probably learn wrong things. So, the curation is important, and so the bot would basically tell you that this is what I learned, should I use this knowledge, right? So, we've implemented, a loop like that to keep human in the loop, to make sure that, the bot has learned the right things.
Yeah, and just a point about your United example. The way that you build emotion is if you're not able to get your boarding pass printed or your flight is too complicated in some dimension, you walk up to that service agent, and the service agent knows exactly who you are, what you've done, and can make that quick connection with you and solve your problem. That is how you build on that emotional dimension, and United does not do it. And how many companies are able to tie that self-service experience to an agent assistant experience?
Well, we want to talk about staying loops, and for those of you who are fans of Westworld, the agents are clearly in their loops all the time, and the bots are doing that in the right way. Just don't want to break out of it. So I think that is interesting. That is the emotional connection you want to do. You want to find incident, I've got a problem, and fix it as fast as possible, and close that loop as fast as possible. And that's really the ultimate goal of what we're talking about.
Or not even, it's preempting that issue from happening, or preempting the customer knowing about the issue and fixing it without the customer having come across that issue.
The analogy we talk about all the time is we have printers around the office, right? And the printer every now and then will wake up and go, hey, I'm out of ink. And my first response is, why are you telling me? I mean, honestly, why does the printer tell me it's out of ink? I mean, you know when people are in the office. You know when pages are being ready to be pre-printed. You know when you're out of ink, obviously, because you're flashing a stupid light to tell me you're out of ink. And by the way, you're on the network. So why don't you just have ink delivered to yourself and have it just show up? Well, why are we having this discussion? And I think that when that happens, it'll be so much simpler to get a better customer experience. I like my HP printer better if it just was always full of ink and I didn't need to know when it was out of ink.
Sure, I'd like my coffee machine a lot more if it would order coffee beans for me and grind my coffee.
And here's the ironic part. Everything you're talking about, everything we're talking about, this isn't that hard. We're not teaching the computer to play Go. We're not trying to beat chess masters. We're not trying to make IBM Watson better than the best chess master on the planet. We're trying to take a couple very discrete data points probably 2,000 to 3,000 words in the English language and predict what's next and do it. It's not that hard. Right? It's really not that hard. And one other comment I'll make is all the stuff for an enterprise, IBM Watson, Salesforce, Einstein, they're all male voices for some reason. If you go to the consumer side, it's Alexa, it's Siri, it's Cortana. I think we're doing something wrong with the enterprise, just for the record.
The women in the audience, everybody else has.
So I think that you bring up a point where when you're modifying your support systems and using AI and you use AI in your products also, right? It's not just connected product that's sending you the data and information. There is some intelligence on the edge on the product itself, right? That's able to interact with the customer. So that's one thing. Second point is today there are many examples where it happens. We have implemented the system actually for earth-moving equipment. It tells the owner as to based on the operating conditions and load that machine has been operating in, you're due for a service, or you're going to need a certain part, and that information obviously doesn't go to the user, but it goes to the field service engineer, and the part gets shipped to the location where the machine is. Right. So these kind of things happen today. Storage vendors, enterprise storage vendors, do that all the time, right? So you have an engineer, from your storage company shows up with a hard drive saying that your hard drive is going to fail, I'm here to replace it. Right? So,
Rolls-Royce with their jet engines, you don't sell jet engines. You don't buy it as a capital expenditure anymore. You've got all these sensors now on the jet engines, and so Rolls-Royce is able to see the left-hand engine's performance compared to the right-hand engine's performance. And same thing, it's like when the plane lands, there's maintenance crews there ready to service the engine, but what it's done with Rolls-Royce is it's changed the way that they monetize their products. They now are able to sell power by the hour, by subscription to the airlines, instead of actually buying outright the jet engine. So this IoT and connected devices and predictive maintenance fuels this transformation of business models as well. And there's lots and lots of examples of companies already doing this.
Okay. Unrelated to this topic, but if you shift gears, one of the things that fascinates me is a lot of these examples that we give, we just kind of poll the crowd about what associations you have with support. You talk about your associations with the support you receive as an end user, as a customer of a product. I want to speak up for the downtrodden employee, because one of the things that I found to be really frustrating is that there's an increasing divide between the relationship that we have with technology as a consumer and the relationship that we are forced to have with technology in the workplace. So as an example, one of the things I found fascinating is that 3 of the top 5 products that we purchase as a species on Cyber Monday, home automation, drones, and wearables for fitness trackers. Didn't used to be the case. It's clearly the case that lots of those among us that didn't consider ourselves like super progressive on the technology scale. Technology is infiltrating our lives, and yet we go into the workplace on Tuesday if you took off Monday for Cyber Monday or whenever you went back to work, and it's like we go back 20 years. Like you boot up your PC and you're faced with Word or something worse than Word, which I don't know if there is, but all of a sudden the technology sucks, and that colors your perception of the place that you work. So there's a good reason why, like globally, customer sat scores are going down. It's because the relationship or the expectations that you have about the process and the experience with support is just this massively increasing gap. And when you're in the workplace and your laptop breaks or you crack your iPhone or something like that and you need to call support, you expect support to behave like United Airlines when they're not breaking your guitar, or like some positive experience with them. No, YouTube it. United breaks guitars. But so increasingly there's this growing dissatisfaction, and the expectation that the support you get as an employee is as good or better than the support that you get as a consumer.
So you don't think that the investment in AI for customer service and support is very yet from vendors? Because I'm looking at all of these folks from Zendesk to ServiceNow to Wipro, they are heavily invested in AI technology.
The question was to you, Dan.
Why do you think there's that?
So much already.
Why do you think there's that gap? It's a true gap, but are vendors not doing their job and being able to invest in all the right places?
So I think there's I think there's an amazing blind spot that we have in the enterprise, thinking that our internal customers don't deserve the kind of respect for their time that we do when we're a brand servicing our external customers. The problem with that thinking is that as an enterprise, we're in the business of delivering some product or service, and we are ultimately judged by the external customer based on how motivated and how productive our internal employees are. And I think this complacency or this sense that it's okay for the cobbler's kids to have no shoes has gone way too far. In part because as an enterprise software industry, we've made it too hard to deliver great internal support experiences, and that's what we think needs to change.
Yeah, so I'll turn it around slightly. As enterprises, we produce products that people consume, and as Fitbit and other folks consume products, let's call it what it is. It's a very narrow product sense. Right? It's a Fitbit tracker, and when monitors like you had on your screen don't have audio, and you ship 10,000, 100,000, a million monitors, that pops up pretty quickly. The pattern, even I can see at that point, right? When you're inside the enterprise, P1 to GE for an employee's laptop is not the same as a P1 to, I'll pick another ad now, which is not the same as a P1 to United. So what happens when you take those patterns and you apply them to the consumer base, it's very easy to find those patterns and recognition and do the ML and run the neural net and have the, my monitor is effing broken sort of thing. That triggers a very quick discussion. But when you submit an incident inside enterprise that says, I'm having a hard time finding out my HR benefits, and you need to parse that to someone in Indiana who has different benefits than someone in North Carolina, and oh, by the way, they're working for GE, so that becomes a P2 event versus the fact they're working for Boeing, which makes HR as a P1 event. The machine learning is, the patterns are there, but we haven't dissected them down to serve the enterprise workforce as well as we have to fill the consumer market. Because honestly, the problem's a bigger space. It's a bigger space. I mean, Sony only ships, I only ship a lot of products, I shouldn't say that, but the number of things that Sony ships or ThinkFix ships or Apple ships is pretty confined compared to probably the number of issues that comes into enterprise IT at Apple that they have to deal with their employees. Now, could we take the same neural net logic and apply it? You bet we could, and we're doing that. I'm sure these guys are doing it too. But it's different to get visible that way. The visibility.
And a much lower number of incidents.
I think what's really interesting is the changes in open source technology over the last few years are now allowing us to actually bring a single model, calculate a single model that can work across the whole customer base compared to when Zendesk, like about 2 years ago, started producing machine learning algorithms to help with customers. We were building a single model per customer, and we had all these issues where you needed a certain volume of requests to actually train those models. And you were so what I get excited about when we talk about like internal departments and things like that is we've now, with like deep learning technologies coming out, we've been able to build a single model and then just like onboard anyone, whether they're an internal legal team or an internal HR team, and get like a level of automation to them using the same model that some huge gaming companies can use to serve their customers. So not having that cold start with machine learning has like been a big changing point in the last year or two, at least for us.
What's been your results? What sort of percentage are you getting? I just have a hard, I'm calling me skeptical, I have a hard time believing that GE Legal has the same issues that Zynga Legal has. But if there really is more of an overlap than I think, I'd love to have that.
There's starting to be more of an overlap, but I think like there's still places where it completely won't work.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
Like, and the biggest thing we've been learning as we build a single model is making sure that the dictionary which we build is actually all of the terms which are used inside organizations, because there's just weird stuff. There's like stuff which you've never heard said outside of the organization, and suddenly it's the key term which you're looking for when a request comes in, and that's where stupid stuff, and I think that's going to be the thing which kind of like slows down the adoption inside organizations, but hopefully we just get past that.
So, in fact, that's what we have observed is that the models are not reusable across enterprises for the very reason that we customize our applications too much. We have different names for things across the companies, right? The three different things that we talked about, and the worst yet is we keep inventing new ones, right, as we go. So that makes that problem harder to share a model. Could there be some baseline and then you sort of have more of a public-private type of model? That's a possibility, but that increases the level of complexity.
The thing I'd add is just like, if you think about implementing machine learning technologies in the right way, this isn't a problem. If you're not trying to pretend to be a human, it's not a problem, because like the machine learning algorithms can be incorrect. And if they're there more to just assist the people to do their job faster, and if a certain degree of accuracy then automatically respond, then we'll be able to produce really good experiences. But I think we'll get burned as a whole industry if we try and just like automate too fast and just replace humans rather than assist them to do their job even faster.
It's that that you're seeing, it's not a feeling that you're getting, that we're with all this talk about chatbots and failed experiments with chatbots, so we try to experiment too quickly.
I don't think there's a thing. There should be a thing of people trying to experiment too quickly. I think that we're just seeing the results come back and sort of go like, okay, so you can't spend 10 minutes in a WYSIWYG building a bot and it's going to act like a human quite yet. But Amazon's got 1,000 people working on like natural language processing for Alexa, and like they're building some really cool stuff. And we see like they're announcing services today about where they're starting to expose some of that technology. So it's just really interesting times.
So how do you train humans to interact with bots? Is there a need to train humans to interact with bots?
How do you train humans to interact with bots? Again, going into Westworld. It's interesting. I do think you have to look at the semantic language, and you have to parse NLP down to a way you can do a neural net that can actually parse the right languages down and do the right training and do the right interactions. Our experience tells us the maximum number of words you're really going to get to is 35,000. That's sort of like the pattern we see, that we see people zoning in, and you don't need to know the whole OED. You just need to know certain words in order to get to certain levels of patterns and good hit rates. But I think that's how we're looking at it. We're just basically trying to figure out if something needs to get done in the enterprise, with all the enterprise-specific three-letter acronyms and weirdisms that occur, and we've seen a lot of them, you have to be able to parse a fixed number of words, run a quick neural network, and then being able to perhaps drive to the right knowledge, workflow automation, answer, help for customer service agent. That's what we're seeing happen.
So actually the technologies that we use in our lives, right, the consumer technologies, are training us to work with AI data, right? The way you talk to Siri is probably not the conversation that we have as humans, right? So subconsciously we're sort of tuning our speech to the way Siri understands it, right? And that happens with chatbots too. we quickly figure out, what's the happy path for that chatbot, and we try to interact with the chatbot in that manner. So I think a lot of the training would actually be done by the consumer technologies that we're using.
So do you tell the customer that you're interacting with the chatbot?
Best bots don't seem like humans. Even though one of the most common questions asked to a bot is, are you a boy or a girl? Shows up in the top 3. The fact is, as humans, we have just this uncanny, innate ability to gravitate toward whatever the quickest path is to get to the solution that we need. It really is all about customer value. It's not about any kind of explicit training. You're not going to read the PDF about how to interact with the bot. But I agree with Nitin on this, that we are being, quote, trained because of the technologies that we're using and the solutions that they're bringing us. What I think we're going to see is that over time we're just going to realize that the best way to get the question answered is via a bot. I think the more interesting thing is what are the cultural implications going to be of how we interact with other humans when we realize that the most efficient way to have a problem solved or engage in a conversation is in a bot-like way? Does that then make our human-to-human conversations bot-like?
We're already doing text messages. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want to text people, I want to text people, right? Who would prefer text over phone? Why? Easier, quicker, faster, right? I also think, I wonder if we're getting ready for a bot backlash. I really do. I know we're early in the world of bots, but I watch a little TV still, I'm old. And when I watch TV, you see ads like Discover, right? Discover has this ad on TV where you call somebody and it's actually a human. They make a big deal out of it, like you're talking to a human who's just like you, and they interact with you. And I begin to wonder if, sort of like going back to home-cooked meals and, mom's apple pie, that there's going to be a business for people who actually provide human interaction that's done in the right way. So those knowledge workers, there might be less of them, but there might end up being sort of higher end, higher granularity level of services for people who actually want human interaction, because at the end of the day, we can write a neural network, we can write something that recurses 5 million times, we can do all that, but I'm willing to bet a human can do it 5 times in about 3 seconds if they know the pattern. I mean, humans are really, really good at this. This is what we do. We can train neural nets all day long, but perhaps there's going to be some space of business where if you call somebody, you get a human every time, and that human's knowledgeable.
Maybe it's the concierge level service.
Maybe it's the right service.
A very real concern for the enterprise.
You can all text me about that.
Is that delivering core support via humans turns out to be really, really expensive. On average, it's about $12 to have an agent pick up the phone. And if you can divert that phone call to a self-service channel, 10 cents. So there's a huge disincentive that enterprise has, and for every $12 call that's being received, the economics of the situation force you to have to pay the agents less, and this vicious cycle continues of delivering core support via the wrong channel, via script reading human agents, when the problem really could be solved just by automating the process. Particularly given the fact that, like I said before, 80% of the issues are one of 3 issue types. So it turns out those 3 issue types can be automated really reliably and turn a bunch of the $12 calls into 10-cent interactions.
So what is the role of the human agent?
I was going to add on that and say that the best support call is the one you never get. The best product I like is the one I never call. Yep. Right. If I don't call Apple, that's a great year. I don't remember last time I called Apple. I can't remember last time I looked at their page because they're helping support, because it just works better, right? So I agree with you. You don't want to have human interaction, you want a bot interaction. But if you write high quality product, then I think you kind of set for all this. But let's face it, we're humans, we're going to write mistakes. Until the robots write the product to serve the humans, it's kind of becomes real. We can always have bugs, and then we're going to have issues. Right?
We'll still think it's wrong anyway. Okay, but now it's right.
Yeah, to your point of using the right channel, so like you're selling a product at a price point of $40 or $50. If you get a support call, that's taken by human, you already lost the profits on the very margin. So we talked about channels and, so it's easy for the consumer to sort of come across any channel. It's very hard for enterprises to serve the customer across all the channels and have the right context and all of that, right? So, the spaghetti that, Kate showed, but that exists almost in every, Fortune 2000 enterprises, right? And it's very hard for them to sort of build something, that can serve, the customers autonomously across all the channels.
So despite my enthusiasm for automated interaction, to Kate's question, there is and will continue to be, I'd even say increasingly so, a role for the human agent in the support process. It's just radically different than the way we thought it in the past. Anything that can be predicted is better left to the domain of machines. Anything that requires judgment is better left to humans. If we could get humans out of the way of things that can be predicted and redeploy them to things that require judgment, support experiences will be much better. That's what will happen in the future.
What do you think, Jason?
I just keep sort of thinking back to it. I've been around the businesses on Messenger project for a fair while, so Facebook's kind of dipping their toes into having bots on Messenger and having businesses actually there as well. One of the hardest things which businesses have struggled with is customers start talking to a bot, and the bots are actually pretty effective. They guide the customer, they can collect information from customers really, really fast, which is super cool. But then it gets to a point where the bot's like, all right, I got nothing else. And they're the human, and the person's sitting there, and they're expecting someone to just write back straight away. Because the bot's been pretending, or the little speech bubbles have been coming up while the bot's typing. And the consumer's like, oh, a customer support rep's gonna get back to me? When? And it can be a really jarring experience if we don't do the handover correctly when the bots are on the consumer-facing side. And then from bots on the agent-facing side, we've just got to make sure that they're there to empower the agent and sort of feed the right content at the right time, and not sort of feel like the bot's doing the job of the agent.
Yeah, and this is something that we've seen a lot, and looked at techniques like transfer the session, right, active session to a human agent, and then we need to see how well that conversation works, right? How from the perspective of continuity and the tone of the conversation and all of that. One thing I wanted to mention, right, is not just between the handover between bots and humans, but even the way the bots work, right? And how many, probably half the world probably speaks some English, right? But the English that's spoken here versus England versus Frenchmen speaking English is very different. What they say and what they mean is very different, right? And you need to build the bots, that understand all of these variations, right? And the emotion behind it, the meaning behind it. So and that's going to be a challenge.
I'll jump on that with language as well. So, I think one of the biggest changes for us has been with shifting to using deep learning neural nets and all that kind of buzzword stuff, but has been the way in which we associate words together is now completely vectorized. So it's just recognizing words or just random characters and turning them into numbers, and then working out the similarities and how close they are to other numbers. So it's actually, the technology has evolved a lot in machine learning to make rolling this functionality out to all different types of languages a lot easier. So I think we've made really good progress, mainly because of all the cool work which Facebook and Google have done open sourcing some of the stuff which they've built internally recently.
So it's all numbers, we just end up with videos.
Maybe, that'd be kind of fun.
It would be kind of fun, you just watch the streaming numbers and you know what's going on, right?
Yeah, hopefully not that.
So I think I've been told that we're done.
We have a question here.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jerry, and this is a great panel, by the way, great discussion. My question is, I got actually two questions, so you already got answered one of them, kind of partially.
It's the predictive part.
Yeah, proportionate was the increase of production effectiveness as far as productivity, but we also see an increase in jobs as far as from a labor perspective. I want to see exactly how that works, because I just saw the numbers, but it didn't really kind of indicate exactly how that's going to be implemented over a series of time to the panel. And that's question number one. Question number two is more of an individual type of scenario where, so if I have my iPhone or my device based on like for 5 years, it knows exactly where I stay, where I live, things I eat. Does the AI kind of mimic who I am over a series of years and understand that, hey, I don't need to actually ask for anything. It just knows, if I'm driving, knows I need to go get gas and it tells me to go to the gas station. So those type of things.
Personal assistants. Anyone want to comment on how creative or knowledgeable personal assistants can get?
I was more interested in your first question about human factors. I'll stay away from the creepy human assistants that tell you everything that's about to do in your life. But Apple already does that, right? Tell me how many minutes does it take me to get here. And we're beginning to see that creepiness factor. A few years back, I was working with a company that would tell people when they walked into a large blue, sounds like Best Buy retailer, you'd walk in and say, hey, Allan, you were here last week and you bought this movie, I'll let you buy another one. It freaked people out, right? Like they'd walk into the store and then pop up on their phone and just, people lost it. So I think, we might be getting back to that at some time. But we're a little, I think it's freaking people out. Back to the human factors, I think that we are going to see displacement of workers. I think people that are in call centers, I think people that are doing these routine, mundane, scripted tasks are going to be displaced. I don't think it's tomorrow, but it's not 10 years from now. It's somewhere in that spectrum. We're going to have to figure out how we get those people to do the more, as Dan said, the judgmental tasks. We're going to have to figure out how we keep those people employed. And everything that we've seen, similar to what Forrester showed, is it's not like all of a sudden the workforce went from 100 down to 10. The workforce is still 100 or 90 or 90% of the workforce is still employed. They just happen to be doing different tasks. And I think as humans, we like that. I mean, I don't want to be the script monkey. I mean, I personally would find that kind of really boring. So being able to change my career, to look at something different, to be able to retrain myself to work with the bot, as Jason says, and be assisted by ML will be much better, I think.
Yeah, and we also think the nature of the health center will work with the but the culture will never go away because the world that we live in, the number of products and devices, it's just increasingly complex, the number of variations that you have to deal with, that it even goes beyond what call center reps can handle. And there's all these other models, including communities and peer support to be able to help with use cases that fall beyond just the strict scenario of the call center.
And the data volumes are just increasing, right? Machine-to-machine data, the IoT devices, the thermostats, the toasters, the coffee makers, all that machine-to-machine data is increasing, and we as humans need assistance to keep it up with it.
Yeah, so finding the claim and doing the claim processing may be taken over by robotic process automation, but judging or proving that claim or making the final judgment is still handled by you.
So, one more comment on that is some of the tasks would probably still be done by humans, right? And I'll give you an example. Say you're settling a trade that is over, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You don't want a machine to do it. It still have, people involved there. So that's one example, right? In other cases, what you will find is that humans will take up the task of managing the effectiveness of the AI system. Right? We talked about tweaking and tuning. Just like we measure the effectiveness of our call centers today. You would look at the effectiveness of the bots and whether those bots need breaking, right? Managing the exceptions. That's going to be, so there'll be new jobs, right? These are not the same skills, but there'll be new jobs that would that will need humans to.
Yeah, about being able, if you're a wealth manager, to pull up all the reports for your client, and then you can now, as a wealth manager, spend your time on recommending and analyzing your client's portfolio, like making very personal recommendations instead of doing just collecting. Yes.
Sure. Hey, so I used to support the VM kernel at VMware. So I kind of grew up, if you will, this kind of very enterprisey, like, you have these tiered service models that are kind of, you're usually kind of constrained by some kind of SLA or something, but you're charging exorbitantly more for some people's service than others. I think credit card companies are big on this. Chase Sapphire runs those commercials like human picks up, etc. But when most people, they talk about AI and customer support, forgive me if this question is a little related to last day. A lot of people see these dollar signs of let me cut these jobs, etc. So how do we kind of get back to this idea of like the augmented humans or this support that kind of stands head and shoulders above the rest? When so many people see these dollar signs of let's cut all these jobs and other things, instead of maybe you can actually charge a little bit more for this premium kind of support. It's a little bit easier to imagine these automated response and everything, but what does the world of that kind of augmented human look like? It's a little bit more difficult to conceptualize.
So let's give an example of a wealth manager, right? So that's essentially increasing the effectiveness of a human agent, right? And you could essentially then free up humans to do more, and that you can potentially charge a premium for, right? It could be premium service or support that you can provide. Another, in your domain, an example would be to essentially analyzing the information like logs and configurations and things like that, right? Your technical support engineer is actually looking at all of this information, looking at error codes, correlating them, trying to get to what the problem is, right? So you could potentially build a tool so that this engineer is more effective. So yes, to your point, there will be such opportunities where you would be able to make humans more efficient and have them provide new type of services or just provide those services more effectively.
I think it would be interesting if we get to the point where the machines are actually like what people are demanding rather than picking up the phone and calling someone. Because they'll be more informed about everything which is going on with like your account with VMware. They're probably going to know what software is doing and monitoring everything which is going on. So it might be interesting if like interacting with a machine is actually the premier way of doing support. If we get there, right? Like I think it will be. Compared to the sort of like model today where it's like, call a human. They'll be like, well, no, the human will have to go and research what's wrong. Whereas like if I can just hit this machine and it's smart enough to correlate things together and smart enough to know when to hand off, and the handoff is instant, then like you might want to go through the machine first.
Again, so I'll take it one step further. Why do you want to call?
Totally.
I mean, so one way to answer your question is take those same tasks and take those same individuals that are working on that and make it predictive. Let them be the recipients of the ML. Let them be recipients of that diagnostics and that predictive service, and let them be the person that shows up at your door that says, hey, you've deployed this ESX server and you've done this something with vMotion and it's broken and I'm here to help. I mean, so again, there's humans involved there, right? There's always, not always, but as far as I can see, there's going to be humans involved for a lot of this. But the question is, are they on the back sort of waiting for something to fly in across the transom that they have to diagnose? Or are they being assertive, predictive, and benefiting off the ML that we already built?
But it all comes down back to like the transparency of an organization and how willing the organization is to actually expose that knowledge. I think like we've seen the beginnings of it with like public status pages and sort of like just showing when the service goes down. And even a lot of companies aren't willing to do that. They sort of hide behind it. So it'll be interesting. It's going to be a journey. I know that.
Yeah. So, great panel, very interesting. I'm curious about what you think is going to happen. A lot of what you've talked about with the complexity of the enterprise versus the consumer, some of the cultural differences and language differences. When you're dealing in the enterprise space and you've got very long time companies that have the high complexity that won't be able, I believe, won't be able to take advantage of a lot of the automation because of the exact slide that Kate put up that showed all those networks between all the systems. How is that going to be addressed? What's going to happen to those long-time old companies?
Innovator dies.
To drain the swamp? Innovator die, drain the swamp, what do we want to call it?
So, no, there is a way to deal with it by hiding the complexity, right? And one way to do that is, really get the part to train themselves watching movies, right? That's the simplest way to sort of deal with the complexity. And then, obviously curate that learning and, use, that knowledge, for your interactions, right? So that's one way to deal with it. Some of the complexity is also, being used by RPA type of tools, right? But that's essentially, hardwiring some of these systems, right? It's not as flexible as we as humans are dealing with multiple applications and, moving the data around. So, there are sort of, these multiple techniques that, you would use to essentially, get that elephant to dance, right? But, in many cases, what, enterprises are doing is that building brand new systems, brand new technology stacks, right?
At a very high cost.
At a very high cost.
I would argue against that. It's at a very high cost. I mean, one of the things that happens a lot, we see this all the time. People say, we're going to go to the cloud, we're going to take this schematic wireframe diagram that Kate showed, and we're going to redo it on ServiceNow or Zendesk or something else. And they take the same team that did that wire schematic, and they go implement it, and guess what? It's now on the cloud, and it's the exact same process.
Really
So yeah, and it's impossible to use, and they don't get the big 300% improvement they're looking for because guess what? They have the team that said, we must have a field that's called ICP number 64 at this spot on. That's just the way we do
There's
things.
1 in a million corn case.
Yeah, so my short answer is blow up the system, start again, and if you go into the mindset that you're going to build a system that follows the same processes that you started with, you're dead. You're dead or out. So you have to start again. Otherwise, HP will be HP, and IBM will be IBM.
And
Where we go?
more than that, the cost to maintain this aging infrastructure is going to get so out of control that a company will be forced to make that decision to innovate and transform their operations because they won't be able to keep up with just basic maintenance costs.
And that's, that sometimes justifies the redundancy. Because, you'd be better off just building a new system versus continue to maintain this and upgrade it.
I think also, we're here to talk about machine learning, and a lot of those systems can't actually expose the data which the algorithms need to be able to train the models, to be able to answer and be really effective. So the costs of the support organizations, which have that huge mess, will just be too big, and they won't be able to deliver the same quality of service. And service is so important to modern businesses, and that they will just go out of business.
So, I think you answered some parts of the question that I want to ask you, which is, we already talked about still reactive support. Customer has a problem, even though Dan mentioned, well, we already know that there are 3 most common situations, right? So then the question is why we don't preempt this? Because that's something that we could and should be doing, right? So instead of putting band-aids, why don't change how we build these applications? Even a situation like moving all this mess up in the cloud doesn't untangle anything. Why not take approach like what, let's say, Vive is doing, or Siri originally intended, but then like Apple blocked it. So you really try to unify experience for the user, for customer. So to borrow like the consumer to enterprise, it should be the same thing. So I would like to hear some thoughts about it. I think Dan mentioned kind of like lean in that direction, but I would like to hear others as well.
Yes, I agree.
Okay, then we can talk later.
Well said. we think about automation as being kind of the maturity process. There's a model, and you start with kind of assisting the human, and you end with kind of proactive remediation of issues. Allan mentioned, I completely agree, this is kind of ServiceNow previously, the philosophy of ServiceNow, and I assume similar to Zendesk. The best support interaction is no support interaction. We'll get there, but it's a journey.
So some of the new jobs that I talked about, right? Looking at the patterns, looking at the data, right? That's coming out of your new AI-based support, and looking at opportunities to either improve your product or application or your support process, right? To handle that, and that's going to be a new skill and a new job that somebody will do to address exactly what you're saying.
In a way, it would be probably similar, like putting service-oriented architecture around putting like these records around legacy applications. So now putting intelligent front ends. Right?
Exactly. Okay. So to make it a little more real, so one of the cases where we're doing this is essentially we provided a tool to analysts to do hypothesis discovery, right? And look at essentially the patterns that are causing the problems, right? And then recognize those patterns and apply the fixes before the problem actually occurs or is reported. Thanks.
Thanks everyone for your time. I was really interested in metrics, particularly in a world where those who do need service are getting, instant response times, very high satisfaction ratings. How do we measure success?
How do you measure success?
Yeah, so right now I guess in the traditional customer service world, we measure success through fast response times, high satisfaction, things like that. In this future world, a lot of those things presumably will be really high already. And if that is the future, how do we then measure success? How do we distinguish companies?
I think the basic metrics will not change. The goalpost will go higher, right? So you would see, the repeat calls or the issue being not resolved, feedback from the customer, right? So would still measure those type of metrics and try to optimize on those.
In our world, it's a classic net promoter score. But I think if you imagine interactions via text happening faster and faster and faster, no one's going to do an NPS survey at the end because it's just, I'm not going to do that, I'm just going to hit delete on the text, right?
Yeah.
So there's part of that, but then the other part of it is really getting incident. Why did they call 2 resolution times down? Being able to measure it very clearly. So the way we measure our organization is around incident to problem and problem resolution, whether it's within engineering, within customer service, within sales. We really look at those times, and those loops do go down when you add automation. But in the world we're in the enterprise, it's still complex enough that there's at least a couple of human touch points every time. So anything we can do to automate humans out of that process and close that loop from initial contact to resolution, we think will drive NPS, and even if people don't respond to NPS anymore.
I think give Forrester's answer. It's measured by customer churn or customer retention and customer lifetime value. So it's all basic that drive revenue.
Basic business.
And you sum up this, survey or NPS type of things. You would use different techniques, right? Kate showed a technique where, from the expressions, you could see whether the customer was satisfied or what the emotions were, right? So since you have a lot of data on almost everything, you start to use those measures versus traditional measures.
Sentiment analysis.
Hey, thanks for joining us. So I guess believe the argument that in the long term, AI is going to be maybe the premier support and the first point of contact because it's going to deliver value and be more effective. I think in the next couple of years, we're still in kind of a world where like human support, whether it's through chat or phone or some other vehicle, is still valuable for a lot of the reasons you guys discussed. And looking back, like one of the lessons I think, or at least one of the realities that we all deal with IVR support is that it's such a disaster in my opinion. And I think like there are two areas that you guys touched on where I think it's particularly painful, right? One is understanding what the role of IVR is. Sometimes it like tries to do more than it's really capable of. And then also effectively doing the handoff, which I think you mentioned is really important. So in like the next year or two, right, how do you see chatbots or any sort of AI, assuming, let's throw IVR out for a second, how do you see like that playing a role in support in two contexts, right? One is like, what's the role, or should it act like a support agent, or should it clearly identify itself as AI? And then what type of services would it support you on? And then how do you think it hands off? Just any insights you have about how that works out. Who do you think?
So I think my stance is always that if it's a bot responding, you should know that it's a bot responding. So don't pretend to be human. I think that'll be incredibly important during the initial phases where there'll be more mistakes. And we'll forgive a bot as long as we know how to get out of the bot flow. And then what was the second?
So the second thing is like, so then you said get out of the bot flow. So how do you see that handoff working effectively?
Right.
Whereas
So,
IVR didn't work effectively.
Yeah, IVR tried to do too much, in my opinion. And IVR was, a lot of the times it's trying to work out identity, so that then the agent can have more context when the call's actually answered. I think that's a bigger shift. So with Messenger, you actually know who the person is. There can be more trust versus just a phone number which you're seeing on your screen, to actually linking that user up to a user profile. So the handoffs can actually be incredibly smooth because we're becoming more familiar with like identifying ourselves in the applications which we're using either on the web or on our mobile devices. So I think it should get smoother, but you're totally correct. In the next couple of years, like it's not going to be magical, right? Like we're starting the journey, and we've had a good sort of jump forward because of the shift in machine learning techniques which have come out over the last few years. But it's going to be a journey. There's still going to be all of the same channels. We're going to have to support them all. Hopefully, we can make them a few of them a little bit more efficient.
So you actually believe that thing on the Facebook chat is actually a person? You don't believe it's a fake profile?
On Facebook chat?
Yeah.
There's been so many poorly implemented bots on the Facebook platform that like they're wrecking like what could potentially be incredible. But there are also some really smart people at a few businesses who we've worked with who are doing it incredibly well. And just asking for they just ask one question, like, is this about your previous order? And you're like, yes. And then it drops into a human interaction flow. And it's like, then the interaction's incredible. And I think we have to nearly train the humans who then pick up the conversation to make sure that they don't overstep the mark based off the context which they've got. I called up to change a booking today, and based off my phone number, the person was like, "Hi, who am I speaking with today?" And I was like, well, you're speaking with Jason now, don't you? But it was then incredible because he was like, your reservations he gave me all the details about the reservation, like instantly. I didn't have to give him booking IDs or anything like that. So we're getting there, but it's just not.
Is that a takeaway then less is more? Because it sounds like consistently IVR was trying to do too much, and when you have simplicity in terms of the initial like AI screen, then it creates a better experience for the customer.
Well, I mean, I think it's the point where you get out of phone tree help. That's kind of what we're all trying to get to, right?
Yeah.
You entered in, I'm here about a booking, then who you were. You didn't have to dial the number and know the magic 12312 code to get back to the human. It just got you out of phone tree help quickly. You bypassed IVR, right? It just got to the point. I mean, have you ever seen those websites that actually tell you when you call XYZ company, push the sequence of, to actually get to the human? I mean, we've automated that now, and that's what people always wanted. Get to someone who can solve my problem in context now.
So the two more trends we have seen. One is essentially to change IVR to include some of these intelligent agents as well. So it's essentially a smart IVR, right? So you're using some of these techniques in the IVR itself, right? In the IVR implementation. So that's one. And other approach, frankly, is that if you have Siri or Cortana like virtual agent, do you really need IVR, right? So that's another thing. And it's simple one or two questions, and you can get to what the customer is calling for much more quicker.
One more, the last question. That's the last. So this is from the enterprise side of things. So we have a system, like we're working on it, which preemptively fixes it, provides solution, knowledge-based articles, and so forth. But we've found that, especially on the enterprise side of things, customers are not sometimes open to changes being made without their pre-approval, or they are more shocked as to, oh, this was not working before and it's working now, kind of a scenario. So to what extent do you think the customer should be aware of what's working behind the scenes to make sure things are smooth? For example, they are very happy if you ship them a hardware hard drive, hard disk, before it's about to fail. But if you suggest changing a HBA timeout or anything else in some iSCSI settings or something, they're all up in arms about it. So what are your thoughts on that?
So why are they up in arms about it? They're up in arms about it because previous suggestions sucked and caused them problems. That's why they're up in arms about it. Okay. They wouldn't be up in arms about it if you got the right answer every time and it worked every time, right? Yeah. That's the issue. So the issue is past predictions, past knowledge, and past orchestration of those answers have been crap. And now we're at the point, hopefully, where we can use what we're talking about here to drive to the right answer. Now imagine the scenario where I told you to set some iSCSI drivers to do something on your NAS box, and it actually increased performance by 300% every time I told you to do it. After the fifth time, you're still going to hesitate.
And I think the key is telling customers as well.
Exactly, and that was the point I was making is you need to give an explanation as to why you're recommending something that you're recommending. A similar conversation I had with a bank, and there they wanted a similar approach. That's tell me why you're recommending something for an entirely different reason, for audit reasons, right? They want to know as to why you took the decision that you took. So you would have to do that, right? You have to sort of connect your recommendation with some of the information related to your current configuration, whatever.
Great. So join me in thanking this awesome panel. All together, Nitin, Jason, Allan, and Dan. Thank you all for coming.